Hello students. Yesterday we have discussed the Einstein photoelectric equation and also the Leonard and Halvor's experiment on photoelectric emission and their experimental result that we know as law of photoelectric emission. So here we have to discuss today how by using Einstein's photoelectric equation how can we just prove the law of photoelectric emissions. So basic thing is there how with the quantum optics we can prove the law of photoelectric emission, and here also we have to predict why wave theory of light is felt to prove photoelectric emission. So first let's see how to prove the law of photoelectric emission by using Einstein's relation. So, in this equation, as we have just calculated the maximum kinetic energy of ejected photoelectron, that is depending on this frequency of radiation and threshold frequency, or you can say that work function of the metal. Second thing on which it is depending on, that is stopping potential. So whenever these values will change, then automatically this maximum kinetic energy will change. So simple we can see here. So whenever the frequency of radiation that will change, then we change the frequency of radiation, the ejected photoelectrons kinetic energy that will change also. So this is the first law of photoelectric emission, is that kinetic energy of ejected photoelectron that is depending on the frequency of radiation, not on the intensity of radiation. So from the Einstein's photoelectric equation we can see this easily. So whenever the frequency of radiation will change, then according to that kinetic energy will change, as it is the aspects of Einstein's concept, that is whenever a photon will incident on any metallic surface, then whole of its energy of one photon will be transferred to the electron, whether that energy is greater than even the work function of the metal. So electron uses that energy in two ways. First, to overcome the potential barrier of the particular surface, or you can say that if that energy is greater than the work function, then first of all the energy it is used equal to work function, and the rest of the energy it is used to increase its kinetic energy. So simple, that kinetic energy is depending on this value. And here with this condition we can see that whenever this energy or frequency of radiation this is less than a particular frequency nu zero, then that time the kinetic energy becomes negative from here, and negative kinetic energy is not possible. So it means that no electrons will be ejected that will have negative kinetic energy. So simple is that below this value of nu zero or this frequency, no photoelectric emission will be get here. So it means that this is the minimum value of the frequency above which we can only get the photoelectric emission. So this frequency is known as threshold frequency. Second law is here the intensity of radiation, that is directly proportional to the number of photoelectrons ejected from the metal surface. So as this is the aspect of even quantum optics, that is intensity of radiation is directly proportional to the number of photons contained in that light. So whenever number of photons that will increase, then with increase in number of photons, obviously all these photons, if they will incident on the metallic surface, then they will transfer their energy to greater number of electrons. So greater number of electrons will be ejected from the metallic surface. So simple, the photoelectrons ejected from the metal surface that will increase due to increased number of photons, and another way you can say that the increased intensity. So simple, intensity of radiation that is directly proportional to the photoelectrons ejected from any metallic surface. So this is the second concept, second law of photoelectric emission that is proved. Third law of photoelectric emission is that there is no time lag between incidence of photons on the metal surface and ejection of electrons from the metal surface. Only you can say that a few nanosecond times is there, but still that is not observable. That's why we can say that there is no time lag. So the basic concept of Einstein was that whenever a photon is incident on any metallic surface or that is interacted with any electron, so whenever photons and electrons are colliding, they collides in perfectly elastic manner. So you know that whenever there is a perfectly elastic collision in which second body is at rest, first body is moving, then after collision first body transfer its whole of the velocity or kinetic energy to the second one. So that's why after incidence, photon transfer its whole of the energy to the particular electrons. In case of wave optics, as there was the concept of uniform distribution of energy, but here in case of quantum optics, one photon will transfer whole of its energy to one electron. It will not distribute its energy among all the electrons. So simple, one electron is will get whole of its energy. So this is as also we know that in any elastic collision, perfectly elastic collision, there is no time lag. Then definitely if there is no time lag in the energy given by the photon to the electron, then definitely whenever photon will incident on the metallic surface, at the same instant we will get the ejection of electron from the metal surface. So these are the basic law of photoelectric emission that we can easily explain with the help of this Einstein's concept. Next concept is also the stopping potential or anode potential, that is depending on the kinetic energy of or you can say that the kinetic energy of photoelectrons, that depends on the stopping potential. So as from this equation we can see that this kinetic energy of ejected photoelectron, that is directly proportional to the stopping potential, means greater will be the stopping potential. It means that electrons have proper energy to reach to the anode. So even we have just applied negative potential at anode. So due to the repulsion, when we are just providing repulsive energy to the electron, but still electron has enough energy, and that energy is depending on the frequency here. So simple, this is the next concept, that whenever we will change frequency of radiation, or obviously there will be change in kinetic energy of ejected photoelectron, and with the help of that if we will change this stopping potential, then definitely there will be change in kinetic energy also. So these are the law of photoelectric emission that we can explain easily with the help of Einstein's concept. The main function of here using Einstein concept is that he just used Planck's law of radiation or quantum mechanics to prove this law that the wave theory was felt to prove. So next important question that is asked, why the wave theory is felt to explain photoelectric emission. So one by one we will just see the law of photoelectric emission with the help of wave concept. So first law of photoelectric emission, we have the kinetic energy of ejected photoelectron, that is depending on the frequency of the radiation, that we know that. But when we will see the wave concept, then according to wave concept, intensity of incidence radiation, that is directly proportional to the energy of radiation. So it means that whenever we will increase the intensity of radiation, means there will be increase in energy of the radiation. And even we are not using any frequency, or we are just keeping any frequency below this mu0, then even at that frequency if we have just provided sufficient intensity, then according to wave mechanics, with increase in this intensity there will be increase in energy, and obviously if there is increase in energy, and if that energy is greater than the work function of the metal, then photoelectronic emission should be placed there. But still, as with the law of photoelectric emission and experimental evidence, we know that whenever frequency of radiation is less than this particular value of the metal, that is threshold frequency, then there is no photoelectronic emission takes place. So this is the first point at which wave concept of light that failed here to prove the law of photoelectric emission. And the second concept, according to wave concept, the number of electrons emitted, that is proportional to the frequency of radiation, not on the intensity of radiation. As we have just discussed, intensity of radiation is directly proportional to here energy of the radiation, or amplitude square, you know that So whenever amplitude will change, according to that energy will change. And we have just discussed interference diffraction phenomena based on that theory also. So as we know that number of photons or simple number of electrons ejected, that is depending on the number of photons that incident on it, and number of photons are not dependent on the frequency of radiation. When whatever frequency we are using, if intensity is constant and number of photons in all these sources, that will be constant. So it means that at second point it is also failed to explain. Third concept is that there is no time lag in the incidence of photons on the metal surface and ejection of electron from it. But according to wave concept, whenever any wave or light wave will incident on any metallic surface, then it will distribute uniformly, or you can say that it is just distributed symmetrically over the metallic surface. So whenever there is symmetric distribution, then all the electrons are free to take that energy. So whenever electrons are free to take that energy, then some of the electrons will get greater energy, some of the electrons will get smaller energy. Even electrons are in different orbits, then they will get that energy in different times. So there will be time lag while receiving the energy and ejection of electron. So according to wave mechanics, there should be some time lag between incidence of photons or incidence of wave, light wave, and ejection of electron from the metallic surface. So this at this point also wave theory of light is failed. So due to all these reasons, as law of photoelectric effect and you can say experimental result of photoelectric emission, that is not proved by the wave theory. So we just needed a new theory, that is the quantum theory of the light here. So basic here in the topic dual nature of radiation, these two topics are important only, and that the question is asked based on that. Second thing here, the dual nature of matter that we have to discuss. So in case of dual nature of matter, as first of all, what is dual nature of light and characteristic of photon, let's discuss that also. So as dual nature of light means light has particular two character. As from the first nature, basically there are three natures of light. We have discussed already in ray optics that the first is geometrical optics. This is called in which we are taking light as the ray, and also we are taking the assumption that or concept that every object has its own image. So that concept helps us to understand reflection, refraction, total internal refraction phenomena easily. Second thing that is known as wave optics, in which we are taking light as the wave, and the theory behind it on which we can explain all the wave phenomena, that is Huygens principle. So by using Huygens principle, easily we can just explain the interference phenomena, diffraction phenomena, polarization, Doppler effect. All these phenomena we can easily explain there, and also we can even explain reflection and refraction with the help of that. Third concept that we have, quantum concept or quantum optics, in which we are taking light as the particle, or light is made up of some of the quantas or photons. So in that condition we can prove easily the photoelectric emission, Compton effect, fine spectrum of basic a lot of materials. So our in crystal structure study, when we just use it. So basic thing is that here we can see that some of the phenomena of light is proved by the wave concept, and some of the phenomena can be proved by particle concept. So we cannot say that even we can take one concept or this second concept is wrong, but the two character of light are actually complementary to each other. They makes the light as the perfect. It means that when we need wave nature, we can take wave nature. When we need just particle nature to explain anything, we can take it. So that is called the dual nature of radiation or light. Means always radiation possesses dual nature. Only it is depending on us and on conditions, which of the phenomena or which of the nature that we have to use for our study purpose or any condition. condition. So in this way, next concept is for the matter. So as we have discussed already about the matter particle or matter waves. So here simple like if we are talking about the radiation, then in which we have just seen the case of all 7 electromagnetic waves. So all the conditions of interference, diffraction, polarization, all the phenomena that we have discussed, that is true for them also. So next as in material particle we have electron, proton, neutrons. So they obviously here we are just talking about the atomic structure and atoms. So in the case of terms elementary particles, that we have electron, proton, neutrons. So whenever we know that any electron that is already have the particle nature. So here we have already particle nature and particle aspects of all the or particle phenomena that is possessing by particular these electron, proton, neutron are these matter particles, we can explain easily. But whenever they are showing wave phenomena, like whenever they are just showing the spectrum or spectroscopic wave, then that time it is difficult to understand the wave behavior of the particle. So later de Broglie just suggested the dual nature of matter or simple de Broglie hypothesis. According to that, a wave is always associated with any particle. So simple this concept we have discussed already in wave motion in previous year, like how the wave is constituted. So that is the way to understand even de Broglie hypothesis also. So whenever we know that any particle, whenever or any massive body, whenever it is at rest, then that time it is just behaving like the particle, means at rest we can just consider its mass, we can take its weight and so many phenomena that is possessing by it. But whenever it is in motion, then that time if we will just draw the or we will see the locus of the path through which it is moving, then we can see that due to its locus a wave is created. So simple according to de Broglie, the basic concept is that a wave is always associated with the any moving particle. So whenever particle will be in motion, then there will be a wave associated with it. This is just like the same phenomena as we have just talked about the simple harmonic wave. Due to simple harmonic motion of number of particles, means number of particles are oscillating and they are just transferring their energy to each just adjacent particle. So with the help of transfer of energy, if you will just see the looks of that transfer, then that constitute a wave there. So this concept is, I think, that is not new. So next thing that is important here that we will discuss, not de Broglie hypothesis, you know it that already. Next the question here, 4 times this question is asked. How can we prove Bohr's second postulate with the help of de Broglie hypothesis? So as Bohr model, in next chapter we will see that also, but still in this chapter it is also important question. So as the Bohr's second model or second postulate is that electron can revolve only in those circular. So according to Bohr's second postulate, electron can revolve only in those circular orbits for which the angular momentum of electron is integral multiple of h upon 2 pi. So simple, this is the condition for the Bohr postulate or for any stationary orbit, that the first as we know that the Bohr's first postulate is that electron can not revolve in every possible circular orbits, as it was the concept of Rutherford. So he just corrected it that here, and the thing is that simple they will revolve only in certain circular orbits, and that is known as stationary orbit. And there is a condition for every stationary orbit, that is the angular momentum of moving electron with some velocity v in the radius or circular orbit radius is r and its mass of electron is m. Then if you will calculate its angular momentum, that should be integral multiple of h upon 2 pi. So this is ns upon 2 pi we have, where n can have value of 1, 2, 3, 4 and so on. According to that we call it, this is first orbit, second orbit, third orbit and so on. Means the first orbit will be where for which the angular momentum of that electron is equal to h upon 2 pi. The second orbit, that will be at as 2h upon 2 pi. So in the same way, this is a condition or limitation for the electrons to revolve around the nucleus in different orbits here. So how can we prove this law or Bohr's second postulate with the help of de Broglie hypothesis? The reverse condition is also asked in examination in nearly 4-5 times it is asked. So here this problem you can just solve in both of the way. So first of all, here as we are discussing the de Broglie hypothesis, so let's see it first with the help of that. So as according to de Broglie hypothesis, the wave that is associated with the matter particle, obviously if we are talking about the wave, so it will have some of the wavelength, and that wavelength can be noted by h upon mv. So this is the wavelength of any wave that is associated with any moving particle. As always I am just saying you, whenever any matter particle will be in motion, that only that time we will get the wave concept, wave picture of that particular particle. So simple as in orbits electrons are just revolving with some velocity, then definitely there will be some wave associated with it. Now even de Broglie has just put a limitation or some conditions for the revolution of the electrons around the nucleus. Then electron can revolve only in those circular orbits for which the distance travelled by the electron over a complete round, that is equal to integral multiple of lambda here. So it means that whenever suppose electron just started to travel from here, then definitely it will just travel in this orbit in this way. As we are just taking the wave concept here, so it means that here number of waves you can say that electron is just moving in the formation way of forming the wave here. So whenever this wave will just start to move and this will comes here, then this is the one complete revolution through this orbit. So obviously the distance travelled by this particular electron, that will be equal to obviously circumference of this orbit. So suppose this is nucleus and circumference of this orbit is a simple radius of this orbit is equal to r, then circumference will be equal to 2 pi r here. So this 2 pi r should be equal to integral multiple of lambda. So this is the condition imposed by the de Broglie on this circular orbits for the movement of electrons in that particular orbit, or for the movement of the wave that any electron is constituting there. So with the help of this particular limitation or concept, we can prove this Bohr's second postulate. So to prove it, obviously we can just put this value of lambda that is given by the de Broglie. So this is ns upon mv, and this is 2 pi r we have. So from here we can write mv this side and 2 pi this side. So this will be equal to mv r, and this is equal to ns upon 2 pi. So this is the Bohr's second postulate. With the help of de Broglie hypothesis we can easily prove it. And in the second in reversible way we can also prove it. So let's just see that also here. Means how can we prove the de Broglie hypothesis using Bohr's second model or second postulate. So as we have Bohr's second postulate, that is mvr, this is equal to ns upon 2 pi. So we can write it here 2 pi r, 2 pi we can write here, this is ns upon mv, and here h upon mv, as we know that this is equal to lambda or wavelength associated with any electron, and this is equal to the distance travelled by the wave or particle over this circular orbit in one complete revolution. So obviously this is the concept of de Broglie, that the distance travelled by the particle over a complete revolution, that is equal to integral multiple of lambda. So as why it is integral multiple of lambda, or this n, actually this is denoting that how many waves or how many this is number of waves, as we can see that this is one wave complete one rotation, this is one second complete rotation, third complete rotation, fourth. So how many number of rotations is done by the wave throughout that particular circular orbit? So simple, obviously you can calculate it by using wavelength here. So as if any particle or any wave that completes one rotation, so this distance is known as one wavelength or equal to lambda. So with the help of that, if you can see that number of complete rotations are done within this circular orbit or one over the circumference. So simple, if we don't know how many numbers of waves we will be constituted here, then we can take it general n. So over this complete rotation, obviously n lambda waves will be constituted here. So this is the concept of de Broglie. You can prove it even by the help of the Bohr postulate, or also with the help of this you can prove de Broglie hypothesis also. So next conceptual problem that is important here, that Huygens principle. So here with the help with Huygens principle we will end this class, and even the conceptual and derivative question that is asked from here we will just end it. Next in next class we will discuss about the numerical question that is asked here, or graphical questions. Actually number of graphs in this chapter we have, so based on that graphs we have number of questions, so we will discuss it tomorrow. So first of all let's discuss the Heisenberg principle. So according to Heisenberg principle, why actually it is needed first of all. So as we have dual nature of radiation and dual nature of matter also, like we have particle nature, we have wave nature. So when we can use particle nature or we can use wave nature, or whether if any particle is in motion then wave is also constituting with it, so can we use simultaneously both of the nature or not, or property that is possessing by that particular particle or wave we can use it not. Like if you will just use the dual nature of radiation, then at a single time can we just study the photoelectric emission as well as interference of light or not. So as photoelectric emission is explained by the particle nature of the light, and interference is explained by the wave nature of light, so can we explain these two phenomena at a single time or not? So for that particular case or difficulty, de Broglie just put some of the assumptions here, means we cannot use both of the conditions simultaneously at a single time. Means whenever we are studying the particle nature or the phenomena possessing by the particle nature, then that time we cannot use wave concept there. So according to that he just put a or just gave his law for the position and momentum of the particle. As you know that momentum of any particle that is, or any body, that is the measurement of motion, means whether the body is in motion or not, that we can. So here simple, if momentum is the measurement of motion, means if we have to measure or we have to detect any particle's position, then that time we cannot measure its velocity with high accuracy. Whenever you will just measure the velocity, then that time obviously there will be, or momentum, there will be some uncertainty, some error in that condition. So this is the principle, that this is also known as uncertainty principle. So that's why it is known as, whenever we are using one property, then there will be uncertainty in the another property. Means if we are just studying the particle nature, then that time if we will just study the wave concept at the same time, then that time there will be uncertainty in any one condition there. So according to that, if you will just write it in terms of position and momentum, then this is the uncertainty is 10, and that uncertainty is nearly equal to h upon phi, or in a very simple way you can also say that value this is equal to s. So simple, if we have to calculate what will be the uncertainty in distance if we are using both of the concept at the single time, then we can just see it. Or what will be the uncertainty in position momentum, we can just send it for you. So And also so many quantities that are uncertain we had just solved later, like energy and time are uncertain, and that concept we have used to explain Yukawa concept of meson theory for the nuclear stability. So that is very important concept through which we can understand whether we can use these two phenomena is right. So in general, I've just told you we cannot use both of the properties at a single time. Whenever, means if we have just designed one instrument to observe the wave property, then through that instrument we cannot ever detect any phenomena of the light that is solved by the particle concept. And whenever we have just designed any instrument for the particle concept, then we cannot ever explain any of the or detect any of the phenomena of the light by which we can explain by using wave concept. So I think now uncertainty principle, its uses, its importance, that is now clear. So this is clear. Then basically the question is asked from all these topics that we have discussed, and the theory that is asked here in your examination, we have discussed it. So for today, just end it here. In next class we will discuss the numerical and graphical problem. Thank you, students.